In some cases, where criminals thought they had everything under control, they end up paying a high price for the crimes they tried to commit. Whether it's from distraction or even an unexpected intervention from someone, these criminals find themselves facing a fate that's a whole lot different from what they were expecting. In some situations, a robbery turns into a real comedy of errors, and the robber ends up way more defeated than they ever imagined. And that's exactly what you're going to see here today. This story feels like it came straight out of a funny home video show. It all starts with a guy parking his car in front of his house. He hops out quickly to open the gate, and in that moment, two guys show up announcing a robbery. The victim even tries to fight back, but against two people, there's not much he can do, so he gives up the car. The real chaos begins when the thieves get into the car and realize they don't even know how to drive it right. They fumble around trying to get out of there, but nothing worked. Their desperation grows as time ticks by, and the scene just gets weirder and weirder. Out of nowhere, another character appears on the scene, a neighbor or friend of the car's owner, armed with a broom. That's right, a broom. He goes after the thief in the driver's seat, swinging the broom through the window. The driver, not knowing what to do, just gives up and bails from the car with his partner. And for the grand finale, when it looked like everything was over, one of the thieves decides to grab another car that's parked nearby. But in his hurry, he reverses without looking and ends up running over his own accomplice before speeding away, leaving his buddy behind. It's the kind of story that if someone just told you, you might not believe it. A very clumsy and foolish thief ended up losing his gun during a robbery. If it had not been filmed, maybe no one would believe this story. At the start of the video, captured by the security camera, the criminal is already in the middle of the robbery, putting the money he took from the employee into several plastic bags. Notice that on top of the counter lies his firearm. The employee stretches out her arm and manages to grab it, causing the thief to run away in fear when she points his own gun at him. Incredibly, the thief comes back just moments after his embarrassing getaway and has the nerve to ask for his gun back. Of course, she says she will not hand it over. At this point, the criminal gets furious and even tries to jump over the counter, but the employee becomes more serious, saying she will shoot, so he runs away again, ending up even poorer than before by losing a weapon worth more than any amount he got from the register. An attempted robbery in the city of Atlanta turned into something like a comedy scene when the thief was completely ignored by his victims, a group of women inside a beauty salon. The crime, caught by the security cameras of the establishment, shows the man entering with his hand hidden under a bag, pretending to be armed. The robber shouts, very angrily, demanding that everyone hand over their money and empty their pockets. But to his surprise, not a single person even moves. Visibly frustrated, he repeats the order several times without success. The salon's customers and employees remain seated, completely ignoring his threats. In a desperate act to avoid leaving with nothing, the robber approaches a woman who had stood up and, in a sudden move, manages to snatch the cell phone from her hands. Even so, he seems confused by the victim's attitude. He decides to leave without saying another word. The Atlanta police reported that the cell phone was recovered later, but the suspect remains at large. In Brazil, a very special criminal was already handcuffed and being led out of a police vehicle into the Governador Valadares police station when he decided it was time to show his appreciation for nature. Watch closely to understand this beautiful gesture. Handcuffed to his friend, he was entering the police station, but that didn't stop him from expressing his love for nature. The problem? He spotted a beautiful tree and instead of entering the station, ran to give it a big, sweet kiss.
Policiais vão entrando de repente, decidem fugir. O policial estava atento, partiu atrás, olha só. Eles estão algemados um no outro. Aí a árvore no caminho. Olha só.
Well, as you might have guessed, he wasn't actually a nature lover. He just thought he could escape in front of the police. But not so fast. That tree was an undercover agent. Realizing the man was trying to flee, it helped capture him. And in the end, everyone lived happily ever after. Well, except the runaway criminal and his friend. A guy was calmly heading to his car when he noticed something strange going on, someone trying to run from the police. Curious, he stopped to figure out what was happening. In the blink of an eye, the criminal who was running got close, not realizing the guy had already sized up the situation. That's when, in a split second, the man delivered a spot-on leg sweep, knocking the criminal down and stopping him from continuing his escape. But it didn't end there. There was another guy chasing the criminal. As soon as he caught up, he tried to grab the criminal with his hands but got outmaneuvered. The robber still hadn't gone down for good. Then, with some quick thinking, the first guy played it cool and landed a second leg sweep. This time, the criminal had no way out and got pinned to the ground, unable to move. It all happened super fast, but the most impressive part was the agility and smart timing. In the end, the criminal got the worst of it and wound up in jail. During a robbery at a snack bar, something truly incredible happened when this guy in the dark shirt stepped in to stop the crime. Notice the moment the thief starts the robbery. He shows a firearm threatening the guy who was near the counter and the employees who do not appear on the security camera footage. The man in dark clothes, possibly a customer who was there, stays very quiet, head down, while the robber demands that the employees hand over all the money from the establishment. While the thief is distracted talking to the employees behind the counter, the customer draws his own gun, subduing the robber on the spot. This customer was actually a police officer. His whole attitude changes the moment he reveals his weapon. It is as if he turns into a completely different person. He managed to fool the thief with his performance and arrested him immediately afterward. In Las Cruces, New Mexico, a crazy American decided to attack a pregnant mother and try to steal her children inside a gas station restroom. The woman and the children locked themselves in the bathroom while the man kept kicking the door. Trying to get in, chaos broke out. Everyone was desperate and no one could stop the guy. That is when a true hero appeared to teach the kidnapper a lesson. Kanan Bauer, adolescent of 16 years old and a high school wrestling champion, was at another gas station, ready to leave, when he heard the screams. He saw a woman running with a baby in her arms and realized something serious was going on. The young man did not think twice. He crossed the street and went straight to face the criminal. Arriving there, Kanan saw the man trying to force his way into the bathroom where the mother and children were. Without fear, he grabbed the aggressor from behind and threw him to the ground, immobilizing him instantly. With total calm, Kanan held the suspect down until the police arrived. The gas station employees were outraged and desperate, trying to help the boy. One woman even tried to hit the criminal with a wet floor sign, but Kanan said everything was under control and that the man would not escape. He asked people to stop trying to help, since they were actually making it harder for him to hold the suspect. After approximately 6 minutes that felt like an eternity, the police finally arrived and handcuffed the man. In the end, everyone showered Kanan Bauer with thanks and praise, as he was not afraid to save the day. A group of thieves showed up full of confidence, ready to rob a store, but they totally failed. They arrived in one car and 3 more on motorcycles. The car tried to break the storefront glass right away, but the glass was way stronger than they imagined. Meanwhile, the other thieves parked their bikes quickly and pulled out hammers from inside their clothes, all set to try to smash the glass too, but it was no use. The glass didn't budge an inch. They tried everything, pounding with force, but the glass stayed firm, stronger than all of them. The car even tried one more time, slamming into the glass, but instead of breaking it, the car just bounced off. No luck. They couldn't even crack it, and the worse it got, the more it seemed like nothing was going to work. Things went downhill for the thieves. In the end, they realized they had no way to pull off the plan and took off empty-handed, ditching the idea and the car. The glass, which they thought was the store's weak point, turned out to be a real barrier, frustrating the thieves' plans and making them leave without accomplishing a single thing. A security camera in a convenience store captured an unbelievable situation that happened during a robbery. The thief shows up causing terror, announcing the robbery. But what the store employees do not know is that he does not actually have a firearm. Throughout the robbery, he keeps his hands in his pocket, pointing with his finger to create a bulge under his jacket, pretending to have a real weapon. But the best part of the video is still coming. The security guard of the establishment, who did not know the thief actually did not have a real weapon, pretended to have a gun hidden behind his back and managed to subdue the criminal. The guard orders the criminal to surrender and slowly approaches him, keeping one hand behind his back, pretending he is holding a gun. When he gets close, he reveals he has no gun at all, just like the thief. But it was already too late. The thief was immobilized and taken to the police station. This story is so absurd it seems hard to believe, but trust me, some criminals are so foolish that they end up calling the police even while being wanted themselves. That is exactly what happened in Kennesaw, Georgia, when a 24-year-old man named Antoine Sims turned a complaint about cold French fries into his own arrest. He called the police because he was angry at McDonald's, claiming that the employees would not solve his problem with the cold fries. When the officers arrived, they started listening to both sides of the story, Sims's and that of the restaurant employees. Everything seemed like just another silly argument over food. The officers informed Sims Sims that the owner of the place was willing to give him a refund for the fries, but would also request a restraining order so he could not return to that establishment. This is something completely legal in the United States, since anyone in charge of a place can ask the police for it. However, Sims got very nervous after hearing this and asked if he would get into trouble with the police. The officer calmly explained that he would not. He suspected something was off. He returned to the patrol car and discovered that Antoine was a dangerous man wanted for murder. At that point, the situation changed completely.
Yeah. Give me just a second.
Excuse me, sir, so there's no tickets or nothing like that?
No.
The officer went back to talk a bit more with Antoine, this time more cautiously, because he needed to keep him distracted until reinforcements arrived to help with the arrest. Antoine, however, started to suspect something was wrong. When the policeman asked him to come sign a document, he said he did not want to get closer, since he had done nothing wrong and feared being arrested. In the end, Antoine Sims managed to run away from the police, but about 20 minutes later, he was located in a condominium's parking lot. The officers used a taser to detain him, and after that, he went straight to jail, where he received even more charges due to his attempted escape. In addition, they found illicit substances in his car, ready to be sold. Rest assured, he will spend a long time in prison, especially since he had already been convicted before, having served 3 years for other crimes. This complaint about the fries turned out to be much more expensive than he could have imagined. After being released from prison, he still will not be allowed to return to that restaurant. In the United Kingdom, Martin, a police officer, was doing routine traffic stops, accompanied by a news crew. One of the drivers had an outstanding warrant, but Martin didn't know that yet. Even though his instincts told him the guy was trouble, he had to follow protocol and check his documents before making any sudden moves. At first, the driver acted obedient, but don't be fooled. When he realized the officer was going to search him, he ditched his car and ran. Luckily, another officer arrived just in time to help capture him, making him trip on the steep sidewalk. The criminal tried to get back up and keep running, but by then, the police had their tasers pointed right at him from a distance that would be impossible to miss. So, he decided to play it smart, lay down, and get cuffed. All he gained from his attempted escape was a good stumble and even more charges for trying to evade. In Ceilândia, in the Federal District, in Brazil, a thief went through a scene straight out of a comedy movie when he tried to break into a house. He decided to go in through the kitchen, but his head got stuck in the door. The commotion started when neighbors heard cries for help in the middle of the morning.
Oi, ó, o elemento tentou entrar aqui na casa aqui para roubar, tentou passar pela porta, ficou preso aí. Que hora que tu entrou aqui, cara?
Completely desperate, the guy was begging to be freed, saying he feared for his life. Curious locals called the military police, who arrived with a ladder to get into the property. When the officers climbed up the wall and looked inside, they were greeted by the thief stuck in the door, struggling to break free. No luck. The funniest part was that this unlucky guy was all set up to avoid leaving any traces, wearing gloves to prevent fingerprints. But it didn't do him any good, since he never expected the door to swing back and trap him. And then he found out the house had been empty for weeks, with nothing inside worth taking. After a lot of effort and with the neighbors' help, the police managed to get him unstuck. He was taken to the station and arrested. In the end, he didn't manage to steal anything, and he also ended up as the neighborhood laughingstock. It's hard to believe, but a thief tried to rob a store with a machete and, wait for it, the store owner defended it with a gigantic sword, which he's very proud of. Sounds like something straight out of a comedy movie. But it really happened in 2016 in the United States. To be specific, it went down at Perry's grocery store in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where security cameras captured everything. Let's be honest, robbing people with a machete isn't something you see every day, but defending yourself with a scimitar? How could the thief have guessed he'd be up against a swordmaster? And here's the craziest part of this whole story. The shopkeeper, who dashed to grab his sword, didn't even need it because he was carrying a firearm the entire time. In the end, the thief ran off in fear and probably won't be returning to that store ever again. Some criminals are extremely clumsy, but there are those who display surprising skill, challenging even logic. Like this woman who tried to steal 8 pairs of pants from a store in Venezuela. The store owner noticed what was happening and, to ensure there was evidence of the crime, forced the woman to literally pull down her pants while filming the scene. It is impressive how she managed to wear so many pants at once and still look relatively normal, something that can be explained by her thin build. However, there was no way out. She ended up detained, and the video of her removing the pants quickly went viral on the internet. Here we have the case of a thief who did not want to cause trouble with anyone. He was just doing his job, which was robbing the convenience store in a very casual way. There was a customer already at the register, so he politely asks for permission, announcing that he is going to carry out the robbery, cutting the line, since he is a criminal, and that is part of his protocol. Of course, this is all a joke. This criminal is very foolish because he did not consider that the man behind him could overpower him, stopping him from robbing the store. As if that was not enough of a problem, right after that, a police officer shows up to arrest him. That is what happens when you underestimate the people around you during a robbery. It was like destiny playing a prank with instant karma. A man came running up to a house, clearly eyeing a package there. Without wasting time, he snatched the parcel and tried to hide it under his hoodie, thinking he'd walk off scot-free. What he didn't count on was the door camera being active, recording everything, and even switching up the lighting to mark the suspicious movement. Making matters worse for him, a police cruiser showed up right on the corner of the street at that exact moment. Noticing the camera light had changed and the cops were getting close, the thief tried to play it off. He pretended it had nothing to do with him, dropped the package back by the door, and turned his back, trying to look as innocent as possible. His suspicious behavior only caught the officers' attention more, and they decided to stop and check out what was going on. Despite acting clueless, he couldn't hide how guilty he looked. With technology advancing, more and more people are moving away from using cash, opting for online payments or NFC. This shift theoretically improves security. In some places like Rotterdam in the Netherlands, there's even a pizzeria with a big sign saying they don't accept cash. But some criminals are so clueless that they don't get the concept. That's right, out of all the places they could rob, two criminals had the bright idea to choose this pizzeria. While the staff patiently tried to explain that there was no cash on site, the thieves looked completely baffled, thinking they were being lied to, even with the huge sign in the window. Realizing their mistake and not wanting to leave empty-handed, they took a piece of costume jewelry from an employee. But, in the end, their disguise was so terrible that the police quickly identified them from the footage, and the pair were convicted. In Alberta in Canada, a thief pulled off one of the fastest, craziest arrests ever seen. The guy walked into a convenience store to buy an energy drink with a stolen credit card, not realizing there was a police officer standing right behind him in line. While waiting his turn at the register, he was already drinking the energy drink straight from the can. When it was time to pay, he tried everything. Swiping the card, tapping it, nothing worked. Desperate, he even dug out some coins from his pocket to try to cover the purchase. But the register system warned the clerk that the card was stolen and that they should call the police. What the thief didn't know was that they didn't even need to call, because the police officer was literally right there, behind him. As soon as the clerk showed the notice to him, the officer didn't think twice. He whipped out the cuffs and arrested the guy on the spot. The clerk, Clayton, found it so hilarious he could hardly keep a straight face while it was all going down. Later, he said it was one of the easiest arrests ever, since the thief practically turned himself in. In the end, the suspect was let go on condition he'd appear in court, but the story has already gone down as one of the most embarrassing moments in the world of crime. Using a stolen credit card with the police in the same line was, to say the least, a disastrous plan. A cowardly criminal who decided to attack a defenseless woman walking alone down a street ended up receiving a well-deserved lesson. As he was trying to act tough with the woman, a bus full of real men happened to be passing by. Even the bus driver slowed down, watching in disbelief. Eventually, the driver stopped to let the men off, so they could give this tough guy a group hug. The funniest part is this guy in a colorful shirt who initially walks by as if nothing's going on. But after hearing the commotion, he turned back to join the group hug. Unfortunately, he was a bit late and missed out on the fun. Hopefully, after this heartwarming experience, that coward's been left with a warmer heart and won't want to act tough with other people anymore. That was the best part of this story. A thief decided to rob a snack bar in Brazil. He was in the kitchen carrying out his robbery when something unexpected happened. Notice the body language of the establishment's owner who is being robbed. He seems to be complying with the thief's demands, handing over the contents of his wallet, as we can see in the security camera footage. But in the blink of an eye, the moment the thief looks away from him, he uses a huge kitchen utensil to strike him. What follows is utter chaos, with the thief losing his gun and other people joining the fight. The owner tries to use the weapon against the thief, but has a lot of difficulty, unable to load it properly, so he decides to use it as a blunt object to attack the criminal again, who tries desperately to escape. Luckily, in the end, no one was shot and no one was hurt, except for the thief, who left with minor injuries. A thief thought he was going to score big when he tried to steal a woman's bags on the street, but he ended up in a mess he definitely didn't see coming. Riding a bike, he was cruising slowly, already eyeing his target. He rolled by her almost at a standstill, waiting for just the right moment, until he decided to strike. As soon as he got close, he yanked on her bags with force. Of course, the woman fought back, holding on to her belongings as best she could. During the struggle, she fell to the ground, which caught the attention of people in traffic. A passenger from a car that was stopped there saw what was happening and jumped out without thinking twice. He went straight for the thief, who was still trying to free his bike from the ground. Others nearby also decided to help, and within seconds, the thief was surrounded by a group that took it upon themselves to teach him a lesson. Meanwhile, the victim got her bags back. In the end, the thief was pinned down and was probably regretting trying to snatch those bags in that spot at that time. A man was in a supermarket planning to steal something. He approaches a pack of drinks, all set to walk away without paying. In one quick move, he grabs the beers and runs off. Now, let us rewind the video a bit and pay attention to another guy. Notice the employee back there, carefully watching the thief. As fast as the man who took the drinks, this employee also dashes forward and kicks a box toward the thief, hitting his feet and tripping him, preventing a robbery in his supermarket. This employee truly has excellent reflexes, but that is not the only reason he managed to foil the thief. If he had not been paying attention from the start to what that man was doing, he might have missed the opportunity. Imagine if he had looked away just as the man started running. He would not have had time to stop him. A street security camera caught a rare moment where a rookie thief realizes he isn't up to the task. The video was posted online and quickly shared millions of times, giving viewers a good laugh. Incredibly, this would-be car thief couldn't complete his heist because he didn't know how to drive a manual transmission. Fortunately, the victim wasn't hurt. After giving up his car, he backed away with his hands up. The thief seemed ready to make a quick getaway, but found himself stuck since he only knew how to drive automatic. He even opened the door and looked back, as if asking the person he just robbed for help. But it wasn't the victim who came to his aid, it was the police. Footage shows the moment two men tried to steal a washing machine that seemed to have been recently purchased. They arrived in a car, entered a house through the open door. A short time later, both came out and tried to place the appliance in the trunk of the car. They attempted to escape, with one driving and the other holding the machine, but after less than half a block, their mission was interrupted. The appliance fell from the car, and with many people arriving at the scene, the criminals gave up on the theft. Eventually, the washing machine was picked up and returned to its rightful owners. The thief thought he was being super sneaky, trying to pry open a glass door with a crowbar, taking major care not to draw anyone's attention. He was trying to open the door quietly, thinking nobody would see or hear anything. What he didn't know was that the homeowner was upstairs at the window, filming everything on her phone, staying completely silent so he wouldn't notice. While he kept working on breaking the glass, the homeowner had already called the police and was recording the whole time. It didn't take long before 3 officers showed up out of nowhere. They announced the arrest and pinned him down, throwing him on the ground and hauling him straight off to the station. The thief, not even realizing he was on camera, got caught red-handed, and the homeowner, besides stopping the burglary, helped the police with the footage. In the end, his plan went south and he paid the price. Another proof that crime really doesn't pay, especially when the wrong person is watching. In a spectacular turn of events, Christy Lee Turman, a 37-year-old woman from Florida, made headlines across the United States as the world's dumbest criminal. After, guess what? She called the police on herself while trying to steal a car. The police department even released the recording of her emergency call, where she explicitly tells the operator that she's trying to take a car that doesn't legally belong to her.
Because I'm trying to steal a car that's not legally mine. So y'all gotta come make a report. I'm reporting this.
When the officers arrived at the scene, a Cadillac dealership, Christy explained that she was part of some Black Ops game or secret operations. The wildest part is that they couldn't technically charge her with theft since she didn't actually manage to steal anything, but she was still charged with trespassing. It turns out Christy thought that turning herself in would somehow clear her of any crimes. According to the Fort Myers police report, there was no evidence she was drunk or on substances, nor does she have a history of mental disorders. In St. Louis, in the United States, a thief tried his luck at a neighborhood bar, but ended up receiving only disdain and a huge humiliation from one of the customers. The place was Bearman's Tavern. Everyone knows each other. But that night, the robbery went completely off script. While the other customers threw themselves to the floor, obeying the armed robber, 57-year-old Tony Tovar decided he would not bow his head. Sitting calmly, he lit a cigarette as if nothing were happening. When the robber tried to take his cell phone, Tony held onto it, defying the assailant. He thought to himself that on that night, he would not be disrespected by anyone. Irritated, the robber asked for the money in Tony's wallet. At that moment, Tony replied that he only had $2, which were already set aside for his next beer. As if that were not enough, Tony even made fun of the robber, asking him now behind the bar to serve him a beer. The thief, somewhat embarrassed for not being able to intimidate Tony, told him to get his own beer. While the criminal cleaned out the cash register, taking about $200, Tony continued sitting there, not reacting, just observing. The security camera recorded everything, and Tony's calm and defiant attitude made him an internet sensation. Later, Tony warned that he does not recommend anyone else to follow his example, saying that ideally, one should comply to avoid getting hurt. But that day, he decided the robber would not order him around. In the end, the thief left with no dignity, while Tony remained at the bar, safe and steady with his beer. This employee deserves some kind of award for using absolutely zero brainpower while trying to steal from her own store's register. Or not. Watch as she keeps glancing up, very aware of her surroundings. Above the register, there was a screen showing live footage from the store's security cameras, with each feed showing up one by one as if they were changing channels. This smart thief thought that just because her image was no longer on the monitor, she wouldn't be caught in the act. She assumed that the camera stopped recording whenever the video feed wasn't being shown on screen. Lucky for the store owner, she was caught very quickly. Let's be real, it doesn't take a genius to understand that's not how security cameras work, right? Hopefully she'll use her time in jail to hit the books. Who knows? Maybe she won't need to steal again. When you go out to commit a robbery, you might expect to face the police, but these 4 criminals in Ontario and Canada were not prepared to face the 3 musketeers. They broke the glass of a jewelry store and tried to break in, but they did not count on the quick reaction of the employees, who united to defend the establishment with their swords. And this was not the first time the jewelry store was protected by sharp blades. A few months earlier, criminals tried to invade the place using a car, but the owner showed up wielding his sword and made them run away. Haven't these thieves realized yet that they stand no chance against the jewelry store's samurai? Police officers from Brazil sing happy birthday to a young man celebrating his big day. Sounds heartwarming, but don't be fooled. The birthday boy got arrested. On his 18th birthday, this young man, now legally considered an adult in Brazil, decided to steal a motorcycle. For years now, it's been difficult to imprison anyone under 18 in certain places, with lighter consequences due to their age. This new legal freedom makes the police officers singing happy birthday to you make a lot more sense. The video filmed by the police quickly went viral, even making it to TV. Despite the officer's cheerful singing, he didn't look happy at all. And can you blame him? This time, he was properly arrested, and the stolen motorcycle was returned to its owner. A criminal walked into a place wearing a helmet, holding a gun, and carrying a plastic bag, announcing a holdup and demanding all the money from the register. Even though the place was almost empty, one customer decided to take matters into his own hands. He waited for the robber to get a little distracted, grabbed a chair, and suddenly smacked him right in the back. The impact knocked the helmet off, exposing the thief's face and leaving him totally dazed. From that moment on, it was total chaos. A fight started between the criminal and the customer, who didn't seem at all worried about the robber's weapon, which turned out to be a toy gun. One funny detail is that while this crazy scene was going down, a staff member kept cleaning the table like nothing was happening. She seemed completely committed to wiping off every speck of dirt in that place, just like the hero was committed to wiping out crime by taking down the robber. Over in Rwanda, an East African country, some YouTubers are creating a buzz with their shocking methods of showing the dangers of not paying attention to your phone on busy streets. The streets are full of pickpockets looking for distracted people to steal their phones. But with these YouTubers, criminals can't get away with anything. Although they mostly use fake phones as bait, they hold onto them firmly and sometimes even give the pickpockets a shock that sends them running in fear. Phone theft attempts are so common that locals often don't even react to what's happening. However, these YouTubers are slowly raising awareness about these thefts and possibly even deterring criminals from continuing this illegal activity. Just a note of caution though, doing this can be dangerous. The best bet is to keep your windows up and if possible, use armored glass in certain cities. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this one.